appreciate it. I definitely appreciate the opportunity that you've given me to appear here. Definitely, it's a digital world. I'm actually in Austin, Texas, on work travel. So by names, I'm Russell Okoth. I hail from the western part, so we are allegedly night runners. So this is night running digitally. You know, it's about 2, 3 a.m. my time. But definitely welcome and feel honored to be among you folks, especially the opportunity that Kelly and Harry has created for us. Definitely come up trying to offer you what my experience has been in fintech and also just around securing the digital bank. Definitely, it's a tough act to follow after Faith. Impressive, and if you're looking for 40-year-olds plus to talk to, definitely I'll be more than happy to share what my experience is after 40. So let me share my screen, and then we can take it from there. All right. I'm not certain if you can see my screen. This is the first time I'm doing this from very remote, but if I can get confirmation from the team, I'll be more than happy on that. So,
Russell, this is Harry. Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, I appreciate it, Harry. So anyway, just to start off, like I said, my name's Russell Okoth. I've been in information security for about 23 years now. I joined information security when it was not the new sexy. I joined it pre 9/11, and unfortunately, with the 9/11 events, then the industry took off, and from there, then we were able to. Obviously, after 9/11, everybody became curious about security and then the evolution of times. And then from there on, what has been the precipitate of the market and also the digital transformation and also just the changes of times and just being sometimes in the right place and the right time. So one thing which I wanted to share with you from me is that I started off working help desk, did not enjoy it so much. It was monotonous, repeatable, and knowing my nature, I started looking up for what's the next opportunity that I can get to be able to move on beyond just help desk and something challenging, something that would offer me opportunities for growth. I then joined an Israeli company. I worked for about 5, 6 years, and then moved on from there to the various verticals that the MC introduced. Personal note, I enjoy staying active when I can. I'm an avid cyclist. With the coronavirus, I think the last 2 years I've cycled over 12,000 kilometers. I enjoy yoga. I also grew up and went to high school in Nairobi, so definitely a Changerian at heart and play rugby and a big proponent of the sport as well. My pride is my family. I have a wife, 2 sons, a college-going kid, as well as a high schooler, and 2 dogs. In typical Luo fashion, they're called Jatela and Jaber. The last book I read, it's The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lenchon. So what I'm going to try and cover in this short span of time, definitely, and hopefully you can be able to take something back, is who am I, what I've already told you, the expectations of what a digital bank is, the challenges, and also how we can go about securing a digital bank. First and foremost, I would like to air out the disclaimer that this is definitely not a professional advice, thanks to my lawyers. This is just a statement of facts and opinions, as well as experiences that I, the presenter, present to you, and nothing of that is contrary to that, will only be the company's. So I'll take it off and just go from there, and let me see if I get the controls. So I was doing some research, and I ran into this about what are the expectations of a digital bank in today's. There's a foundational, there is a market level, and then there's also the differentiator. Obviously, each generation that we face as providers of this service have different banking preferences, expectations, and their interactions with financials changes. Whether you're Gen Z, a baby boomer, or even a Zoomer. We need as a whole to come out and understand the different audiences that we are trying to provide services to and leverage for. The expectations for the digital experience are being set by people's personal interactions, not only with their primary bank, but with other fintechs or with travel agencies and stuff. They get a digital experience and then compare it to what maybe they expect that to be. As you can see in this survey, the primary and foundational element, up to 90%, has been to keep personal information secure. So security is no longer playing a supportive role, but security is part and parcel of the business. We do enable the environment, we do encourage the environment, but in many organizations interviewed or many end users interviewed, you can see up to 90% wanted the information kept secure. They want flexibility, where to bank and how to bank. They also just want ease of digital experience, as well as then the last of that, which scored lowly, was how much do you care for them as a customer. So that's really what makes you differentiates you from the others. But the general expectation is that their personal information is kept secure. I think one of the gentlemen from Equity yesterday pulled it out when he said that we, the bank, are just custodians of data. So definitely keeping it secure is our primary goal in this. The challenges, leaps and bounds of challenges, obviously. We have skill gaps. There's about, right now, from the ISC squared last survey, there's about 3 million professionals worldwide. There's a shortage of 3 million professionals. It almost seems like if we can produce about 89% churn rate of information security professionals, then we're able to meet that gap that is being created right now. 2/3 of that is actually in the Asia Pacific, but for most part, Africa, Europe, as well as the United States, carry about the other third of the shortages. We see APIs, definitely open banking, cyber insurance, data protection and legislation. There's variances. The cost of compliance is becoming very expensive. But from my experience and also experience of many others, we know that compliance is not necessarily security. A lot of the organizations, Sony, you name it, that you've had, Target, any of those big names you've seen on the news, those were compliant organizations. But what exactly transpired? Third-party risk becomes another challenge that we have. There's targeted attacks, there's cloud computing. Cloud computing presents itself in terms of speed, in terms of skill set. The way you run identity access management in one cloud tenancy is not the same. GCP handles it a certain way, AWS will handle it a certain way. If you go Alibaba or you go whatever cloud of your choice is. Malicious insider. Those still remain our very, very own. And as an insider, one thing which I always tell the board as well as my senior management is that the insiders are not only the employees, they're not only the IT personnel, they're not only the business supporting teams. Our insider includes our customers. We refer to them as insider and handle the same controls because these are people we've given access into our networks. So they're able to introduce, whether if their endpoints or their mobile apps are infected, that would be part and parcel of them infesting us. Cryptocurrency is another, obviously controversial. Adoption is either slow, it's unsteady, free of regulation. Do we regulate it? It comes from creating a democracy and what it's all about. Obviously, with the last 2 years with the pandemic, remote work became another challenge. The perimeters moved, where before you went into a building, you were protected, you had an access, and then there was a fire exit and emergency care. But then right now, what really happens with remote working is that you have to protect every other laptop, every other end user that's out there. That's your fence. So your fence is distributed. How do you protect that? That's one of the challenges that's coming up. Legacy infrastructure. So technology is really piling up. Obviously, digitization is driving it up. 5G is deployed just in parallel with Wi-Fi. We have mobile systems deployed as well as workstations. DevOps has redesigned applications, but we still have applications that have to run on server. So legacy is very notorious, especially in the financial industry. So we, as the CISOs, as well as the information security teams, we have to worry about that security because you are just as strong as your weakest link. So you could have all the latest of technology, but you still will remain challenged with how do you protect legacy technology? How do you protect infrastructure that probably the knowledge or even the updates have gone? The latest SolarWinds, Kaseya, all those were from legacy infrastructure, which then started making traversal movement along the networks. Now, to the main point that I wanted to bring about is really how do we go about securing a digital bank? Security is complex, but we don't have to make it as complex as it seems to be. Easy ways to have is to go through it is just 4 strategies with different goals within each strategy. One is vigilance. We as an organization, with a tone at the top from executive support, it's not just a matter of it sounds good or it's a good press release. The executive at the top need to set up the tone on how we create a culture that fosters best cybersecurity practice. So cybersecurity training, awareness, and education. You have to create a program where you're educating the end user, your employees, your contractors, your third party, your vendors, and you're not waiting for them to just once a year so you have to check a box. That's compliance. But in security, you have to keep it top of mind. So repeated messaging, creative messaging, having people dedicated to that, and even using your learning and development team to dole out that information. The other part is how aware are you of the threat of your threat landscape? How much intelligence are we sharing as banks? How much intelligence are we rotating around as financial organizations? It's important that we have both private, public, as well as government sectors coming together to share some of the threats that we commonly. I know there's adversarial relationship in terms of competing for market space, but at the same time, we call it wartime because we're facing the same enemy. So sharing some of this information will help us develop our threat intelligence platforms. Other part is secure, is to how do we secure? We use cutting edge technology to protect assets. Identity and access management is definitely a new frontier. I've been involved in a lot of identity and access management projects. They can be costly if not run properly. They can get away real quick, but at the same time, you have to know who you're admitting into your network, what they have access to, and what can they do. So the controls needs to be there. It's like letting somebody in your house. You have to know where they are, what rooms they can go to, and even if they come to your room, are they free to enter your drawers? Are they free to enter your cupboards or your closets? So that's part of identity and access management. It means joiners are given the right access, no more, no less than they need to do their job. Movers, when you change jobs or you change positions, we either add or remove that access from you. And then leavers, as soon as they terminate or leave the organization, then we are able to eliminate that. The complexity is added on, obviously, with the cloud coming, where nothing is stationary. They have different methodology. And that's why it's important to have a very central role-based access where you're able to terminate at one point and propagate that change. Endpoint protection. Our laptops have become our fences. What we run on them, our mobile devices. People want to access, get to work when and wherever they are. So what do we deploy at that? We have endpoint detection and response systems that you can put at the endpoints. You can automate. Deletion and and curtailing of indicators of compromise. You can quarantine systems that show anomalous behavior. You can also deploy things like user behavior analysis on the endpoints that are able to monitor the behavior and base your endpoints normal, and at any time that you show anomalous behavior, you're able to pull it off. The other point I cannot stress enough is protect data. We have to protect data. We have to protect data. We are simply custodians. It does not belong to us. We keep it we add value to it, we use it to add value to our processes, but at the end of the day, that data does not belong to us, it's entrusted to us, and it's therefore a moral as well as a professional obligation to protect the data. Somebody's name, somebody's PIN, somebody that will never belong to us. So that's one. The other part of the cutting edge technologies, senior management. Somebody had 12 CIOs, chief risk officers, whoever this CISO or the head of security is reporting to. Let's support these teams to be able to invest into newer technologies. Remember, we are always playing catch up. There is no single time that we are ahead of the bad actors. They don't have rules, they don't have compliance, they don't have regulations that they abide by. They share information openly in the dark and deep web. So things like microsegmentation, zero trust, SASE, those are things that you can look into and see how can I deploy it and how can I deploy it in a cost-effective manner as well. Not every cutting edge, every sexy solution out there is meant to be used. So that's why you have to know your risk and know what will be the best solution. You definitely have VMware in the audience, and if you have time, please visit with them, find out and explore things like microsegmentation and zero trust and how they deploy that. They've been good partners to me as well in many years across, and this is not paid advertising for them, but just somebody, a trusted partner that can offer you, can be a partner in helping you get where you're trying to go. Resilience. In today's world, it's not a matter of when, or it's not a matter of if I'll be hacked. You will be hacked. And when you're hacked, what is the next thing you'll do? Or when you're compromised, what will you do? So it's important that as a digital bank, you have a very sound incident response and crisis management program. That program should be well planned, should be kept updated. You should exercise it, have different stakeholders that exercise it, so that every person who is a stakeholder knows their responsibility in the event of an incident. Your end users, your customers, they should know how to report an incident, how to identify it. Have a team dedicated that can receive, triage, and determine whether an incident is actually impactful or does it not impact it. Also use your threat intelligence that you carry to inform your incident response. Use your threat intelligence to do some threat modeling to inform the exercises that you carry. And then work with your regulators, work with your legal team to see what are some of the disclosure, what are some of the notifications, the third-party contracts that you get into, what do they require you in the event of an incident, who's your contact, how much time do you have before you let the other team know. And then the final part is the governance, and a proper IT governance that promotes cybersecurity. That starts with the policies, it starts with the standards. It also controls and frameworks. What I've put on the right are some of the risk control and frameworks from the National Institute of Standards and Technology I've used over time. They're not necessarily mapped one-to-one with the boxes that they're in, but they've been frames of reference for me to use to build controls, map out controls, even take regulatory needs and map them to controls. CIS control is a good place to start, where it's categorized into 3 families, and you start with the top 5 for just general cyber hygiene, but that reduces a very big percentage of your cyber risks. So knowing your assets, knowing your software, things like that, identity and access management, privileged access, all that. You also need to carry out audits and risk assessments of yourself. You don't have to wait for a regulator. Have a team that can carry out a risk and control self-assessment so that you could know where exactly you are at that particular time. The other big part, and as you can see, most of the incidents and big names you've heard of have been caused by a third party. Target was an air conditioning unit. A lot of these people, a lot of the contracts we get into, once we've signed the deal, no one keeps a diligent eye. So we need to find a way where our contracts obligate our partners to securing your data. Part and parcel is having a good data governance program that stipulates how data is handled and is able to keep track of data across the lines. So with that, I think you should be able to build a program that should be able to sustain you over time, But one thing which I would urge also is in our profession is also just a change of mindset. The change of mindset is big because we have a big skills gap. About 9 days ago, I was talking to a group of students organized by a Kenyan group, SheHacks, and there's a very big pool of youth who are eager. And us as leaders who write the job descriptions need to start writing better job descriptions. We need to start making barriers and market entry barriers a little lower, but more have some governance and supervision to develop this young talent. I think one of the biggest risks that we have is the shortage of personnel coming in. I'm also a very big proponent of women in technology. I've been blessed to hire several who've been the rock stars of the program. So that's another thing we need to look at, promote to hire people who don't look like you, who don't speak and sound like you. I know how it feels to be a minority, trust me. I belong to a group here that supports minority and advancement of women in technology. And I think with that, I come to the end trying to have squeezed in enough time because I know there was a lunch break coming in. So if there's any questions, maybe the studio can relay.
Hey, Russ, thank you so much. I don't know if you can hear the clapping.
No, I appreciate it's an honor. This warms my heart that, for years I've come home. I was supposed to be home, so it would have been nice to be in person, but work travels. And I've craved for opportunity to be able to touch base back with home and stuff. And, when I sent the email to you, Kelly, and staff and told you to use me, I did not expect a response in good time. And I remember our first meeting and also speaking to Harry earlier on this morning. But I appreciate the opportunity. I hope I can, people in the audience, I'm available on LinkedIn. Please reach out. I'm very open to, 24 years I've been blessed to do this. I've never had a Monday blue, but at the same time, I don't have a cellulant to pass on. But what I've learned, I would be eager to leave it as my legacy, pass on that information.
Russ, I think, and it's true, guys, he reached out to me on LinkedIn and just dropped me a message, and his words were, I want to give back to my home country. How can I participate? So I applaud you for coming in, and I know that you were meant to be a panelist and we made you a speaker, but thank you so much for the effort. And yes, everyone, you can connect to Russell on LinkedIn. If you've got any questions at all, you can fire them to me and I can connect you to him on email as well. But thank you so much, Russell, for coming in. I really appreciate your time.
And before I drop off, one thing I wanted to urge as technologists, mental health. It's very important. We're in a very stressful time.
Yeah.
So let's all find an outlet.
Yeah, I think that deserves a clap. Thank you so much, Russ.
Thank you. Have a good day.